Hey, Los Angeles, KBLA Talk 1580 is turning 5, and we're celebrating in a big way.
Oh my God!
Join us Friday, June 19th, Juneteenth, 4 to 7 p.m. at the Beehive for our 5th anniversary bash and Juneteenth celebration. We're talking surprise celebrity guests, a special presentation, and a major announcement you will not want to miss.
I can't wait to hear it.
Plus, live music, dancing, games, and enough food and drink to keep the party going.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Of course, you're welcome to bring your own picnic basket, blanket, and lawn chair. And the best part, it's completely free. But here's the thing. You've got to sign up in advance. Space is limited, so don't wait. Head to kbla1580.com right now and lock in your spot. Friday, June 19th, The Beehive, KBLA Talk 1580. 5 years strong, and we're just getting started.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Yeah, man! Superpowers, I got real superpowers, I got real superpowers, I got real superpowers, I got real superpowers, I got real. I do my thing, how I do it, hey, but they never change your check or feel good. It's for my doubt, them to meet you from the dirt. Car remind me of my worth, man, that's real love. I'ma swing how I swing, I'ma feel how I feel when I'm near ya. It's like 5 in the morning at the show, walking back, I record how I feel, yeah. Keep riding for me, keep rolling for me, keep rocking with me. Hi-hat for me, bass knocking for me, smoke rock me to sleep. How I make it through all that bullshit, I don't know. How I get sober, up then clean again, I don't know. How you be rapping circles around, but you don't drop, I don't know. I know gon' judge me, but I don't judge them, I don't know. Count my money, count my sins, I don't know. Did I sacrifice the innocence within, I don't know. Do I love you like I love you on this? I don't know. Say I'm never going back, but then again, I don't know.
KBLA Talk 1580. Man, that new Isaiah Rashad. Forget about Iceman. I'm just saying. You need a palate cleanser for your ears. Anyway, phone lines are open right now. 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. You're welcome to call me. This is the perfect moment to do so. Weigh in on YouTube at KBLA 1580. In our chat, our comments, be fire. And wow, we do have a lot to talk about. So, okay, the United States, according to the Black Information Network, I'll do my best not to imitate them too much, but they have issued an indictment against Raul Castro. And, you know, the reporting by some conservative outlets who shall go unnamed is that this is going to be a game changer for Cuba and it may bring the Cuban government down and blah, blah, blah. How does that make sense? That would be like you went and arrested Jimmy Carter. You know, I mean, what are we talking about here? The guy is not the president anymore, and he's 94. How is that a game changer? Not only that, what they're arresting this guy for, they haven't arrested him. They're charging him. He's in Cuba. They're charging him in Miami, Florida. They're saying that they're charging him with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals, 4 counts of murder, 2 counts of destruction of an aircraft. But let's put this in perspective. This group, I think Brothers to the Rescue is what they're called. They're right-wing Cubans who would fly over Cuba and drop propaganda flyers, would talk smack about Cuba, would invade Cuban airspace, right, without permission. They had been repeatedly warned to stop doing it. According to declassified documents, the United States had said they're going to get their plane shot down. I mean, they didn't say it in that language. They said it in CIA language. But basically they said if these jokers keep doing that, they're going to get their plane shot down. Okay? And they had been warned repeatedly. And then supposedly Raul Castro back in 1996 authorized the shooting down of 2 small planes. Yeah, it's brothers to the rescue. But now these are so-called exiles. They claim they would be looking for people in the water between Cuba and Florida. Okay, do that. But why are you flying into Florida? Why are you flying into Cuban airspace repeatedly? Why are you dropping flyers? You think you can invade another country's airspace repeatedly after warnings and not risk getting shut down? Try that in any country, especially as someone who has been described as a terrorist by that government. If France thinks you're a terrorist and you keep flying into French airspace and the French government warns you to stop and you keep doing it and then your plane gets shot down, that's not a crime. That's called consequences for your actions. You can't invade people's sovereign territory. That's just not how the world works. Okay? And so this is BS on top of BS, sitting next to a BS sandwich. And what they're trying to do is give another excuse so they can go in and invade Cuba. Now, you talk about superpowers. Imagine being Cuba. They're a tiny island, smaller than LA, off the coast of Miami, that people have literally swam from Miami, whatever it is, from Miami to, from Florida to Cuba. It's that close. And you've been playing in the U.S. face since 1959 because they're a communist country and they were colonized by the Spanish. And really, they became like a playground for the mafia and the political class in this country where, you know, they would do their dirty deeds right off the coast of Florida. Doesn't that sound like what would be happening right now if we still had control over Florida? It would be Mar-a-Lago south, right? Okay, or maybe Epstein Island, the U.S. version, right? So Cuba got their independence, and it doesn't matter whether you are a communist or not a communist. That was their choice. They took their island back. They decided to become a communist country. So we've been punishing them for their choice of governance for 60 plus years. And this is BS on top of BS, sitting next to BS, because you're charging a former president for doing his job as president. Now, I do not agree with the kidnapping of the Venezuelan president by this country. I don't agree with that. I don't think you get to go and kidnap other people's presidents, even if you think they did something bad. As much as I don't agree with anything our president does, well, maybe one or two things, but as much as I overall think he is the face and heart of evil, I would not agree with another country coming to Washington, D.C., kidnapping him and taking him out, because that would be an abridgment of our sovereignty, right? That would be the disrespect of the U.S. borders, the U.S. sovereignty. See what I'm saying here? You can't just come in and kidnap the president. Well, that's what we did in Venezuela. And so imagine if the Venezuelan government, I'll say 20, 30, 40 years from now, decided to indict Donald Trump for kidnapping their president. You see what I'm getting at here? It might not be a good example because what Trump did is arguably illegal, and what the Cuban president did is likely not illegal under international law. If someone invades your airspace and you order their plane to be shot down, especially after repeated warnings, I seriously doubt that's a violation of international law. Kidnapping someone's president might not be. So maybe I should use a better example. Imagine if they another country, say, Afghanistan decided to, or Iraq decided to indict Dick Cheney for torture, war crimes that he did. Well, you could argue that they were illegal in the U.S. at that time, even though you look at the bigger authority, the one in the sky, they're morally illegal. But okay, they might have been technically legal in the United States. So how can they indict our vice president, the sitting vice president at the time, for doing something that was legal under U.S. law and is internationally accepted as what you do when someone invades your airspace? Meanwhile, at Grifter Central, I just wanted to put that in perspective. You see what I'm saying? They're indicting a former president who's 94 years old for protecting his country's airspace by shooting down an invading plane which had been repeatedly warned and which contained the members of an organization who had been identified by the Cuban government as terrorists. Okay? And there you have it. And there you have what's going on with Marco Rubio beating his chest like he really did something. All right, you big man. You flung charges at a 94-year-old who doesn't even run nothing. Pat yourself on the back and go have a sandwich. 800-920-1580. That's the number if you want to weigh in. There are a lot of things going on, but that one was the one that, well, it's really in competition with the $1.8 billion payout to the criminals who tried to overturn the government on January 6th for most ridiculous headline of the day. It might be a toss-up. 800-920-1580 on a Think Tank Thursday. Maybe that's the question. What is the most ridiculous headline of the week? Woo! What is the most emblematic of the 12 kinds of crazy that are going on, not just in the United States, but around the world, although we may be the leaders, we may be the lead nation in the clown car of nations. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. If you want to say a thing about a thing, I'm Dominique DePrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions. This is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account.
When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything.
Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like nuclear reactor safety expert.
I disabled the backup cooling system. It was making such an annoying noise. You heard it, right? It was like,
We're on the countdown to core failure.
And you're saying we don't want that?
This is the job for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relationship relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
Right now, Andy's over here asking me about the governor's race. And, you know, there's an article in the LA Times today, Andy, about how a lot of Angelenos will cast their votes on the last day. They will go, the last day, of course, is June 2nd, because they haven't decided about governor. Like, the whole rest of the ballot is marked up. I'm not allowed to endorse anymore, according to station management, but there will be signs. I just think that it is tough, right? You've got Javier Becerra, who has a lot of momentum, a lot of experience. You know, he's been in Congress, he's been at the secretary level, so we know he knows where the bodies are buried in Washington, which is important. He's an attorney, and people see him as a steady hand. Then you've got Tom Steyer, who has a much more progressive platform. He's the only one who's come out full-throated in favor of reparations, other than Butch Ware. And Butch Ware, of course, policy-wise would be the choice, but he's not going to win. I don't think it's time for a protest vote for governor or mayor, because the odds are, it's not strategically smart. You've got Chad Bianco, who is an oath keeper who has refused to disavow the philosophy of this white supremacist group. He's in the top tier of candidates. Then you have Steve Hilton, who's a MAGA guy, right? He's been endorsed by Trump. Okay, that's on the governor's side. Then on the mayor's side, it was, I think, yesterday that President Trump said he hopes Spencer Pratt wins and that he thinks Spencer Pratt is a big MAGA guy. Now, that's not an official endorsement, but it's about as close as you can get, right? And Spencer Pratt is also in the top 3 in most polling for mayor. It is Pratt, Rahman, and Bass. Not in that order, in the opposite order, I think. I think it's Bass, Rahman, and Pratt in most polls, and some Rahman and Pratt are flipped the other way around. Pratt hasn't returned our calls, but certainly he would be welcome on this show if he wants to come. But in both of these cases, you have pretty, not just Republicans, but pretty extreme Republicans who are within striking distance of mayor of LA and governor of California. And either one of those would be very, very, I believe, problematic for the state of California at a time when we have a Republican administration which is moving very, very aggressively. Katie Porter's still polling pretty well. I'm not going to vote for her, partly because, whoops, I'm not allowed to say that. I didn't say that. Okay, let me put it this way. I am less impressed with her because, was that a good cleanup? I'm less impressed with her because, not just because of the mean boss videotapes where she's yelling at her staff, but because of the way she acted as spoiler in the Senate race, pushing out Barbara Lee when many of us would have appreciated her just holding it down in Orange County and keeping that seat blue. But also, Katie Porter is talented, she's brilliant, and she's young. So she can run for governor next time, or the time after that, or the time after that, after she does some meditation and yoga and gets herself together. Look, I did it. Worked for me. And so it's a tough choice. Have you decided yet, Andy, what you're going to do?
I'm still figuring it out, but I will say this. I think one of the reasons why you probably have a lot of people that might be waiting until the last minute, and I could be wrong. I'm privileged to be, behind the scenes and, kind of listen to, the political spectrum and everything. But if I'm not here, the visibility from a lot of these candidates, I feel like is non-existent.
Becerra's coming in today with Tavis, so you'll meet him.
So, but I'm saying outside of
I
this,
think he's coming in.
Outside
He'll
of
be
this
on.
space and outside of this platform.
Right.
I need to see these cats in the community. I need to see these cats at schools. Something. I don't see these cats coming. South of the 10 freeway. I need to see them in the community. And
well, Tom Steyer was here. Let's see. On Saturday, he was at Aura.
Really?
And he was.
Shout out to him.
He was at Aura, and it was packed. Some of our black electeds were there. I couldn't get in, Andy. I went, but it was full. They wouldn't let me in. So I was on the outside looking in. But it was actually interesting because there was some protests, and then there were supporters outside, some people protesting, and I couldn't get a clear reason from them for the protesting. Some people just don't want to vote Steyer because he's a billionaire, and I get that.
I kind of agree with that a little bit. I mean, I don't know too much about him, but I see his ads all the time.
Yeah, you can't help that.
And I just don't want to be programmed by that.
Yeah, I got you.
I
got you. And it's a tough look. To me, if we ended up with Becerra, Porter, Steyer, Butch Ware, Antonio Villaraigosa, I'll take any one of those any day of the week over Bianca or Hilton.
I agree.
Any day of the week, y'all. But I do believe this is a time to be strategic. So I think I will say this. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say this. Vote for someone who can actually win, right? Which probably means at this point Becerra or Steyer, unless you're a Republican, unless you're MAGA. I don't even want to say it unless you're a Republican. I would urge Republicans to choose between Becerra, Steyer, and Porter because, you can be a Republican and not be here for the MAGA agenda, especially under a Republican administration that already wants to punish California. Now you're just going to lay down and say, do us? No, I don't think so. That's not what we're doing. That is not what we're doing. And what would be an amazing thing? This is one of my election day dreams, is if neither Republican got into the runoff. That's highly unlikely. But now we've gone from the possibility of two Republicans going up against each other to more than likely we'll have one from each party. But what I would love is like a Steyer-Becerra runoff or a Becerra Porter or a Porter Steyer or a Villaraigosa Steyer runoff. Like Tony Thurmond, let me not forget him. He's great, but he's only polling at 1%.
What about Matt Mahan?
Next.
I was kind of impressed by him.
Really?
With some of the debates that I've seen. I feel like he's the only one. Granted, I believe he was the mayor or is the mayor.
He's the mayor of San
Jose.
Yeah.
He's the only one that really comes off like a political figure, if that makes any sense.
He's very polished, but you also have to look at who's backing the guy. He's got Palantir money. He's getting the tech bro money from Silicon Valley. So he's Democrat light. He's like kind of like maybe some would say a dino, Democrat in name only, or Republican light, centrist, moderate Dem with, and he is a young guy. He's a good-looking guy. He's charismatic. And that is one of the reasons why the big money got behind him, even though he jumped in the race late. But he shares many of the Trump donors, I believe. But we'll see. None of those folks have responded to our inquiries of being on this show, but quite a few of them have come on with Tavis. So you can find those pods wherever you get your podcasts. You can find them on YouTube. And as I said, Javier Becerra will be speaking with Tavis today, which I think is super important because, to your point, Andy, a lot of us have been wondering why we're not seeing more of Javier Becerra in the black community. Because he is an Angelino. You know what I mean? It's not like he's from somewhere else and he don't know. He's from LA. And so hopefully he's not making the calculation that he doesn't need us, because that would be a mistake. That would be a mistake.
I'm going to save my comment for offline.
Oh, okay. Ooh, can't wait. Da-na-na-na. But I do think, look, Becerra is a proven lawmaker with a track record who knows where the bathrooms are, knows where the bodies are buried. That's important. Steyer has a great platform, has gotten things done when he wasn't in elected office, getting behind green initiatives. And he has divested from his prison portfolio, which a lot of people were angry about, and has disavowed it, so that's important. And Katie Porter is also a smart person. You've seen her going up against speaking truth to power in Congress when she holds up her whiteboards and holds those CEOs accountable in congressional hearings. She's a mom. She's a practical person. She's a woman. So all of those are in her favor. I'll take any one of those any day of the week. Villaraigosa has been Speaker of the entire Assembly and Mayor of Los Angeles. Worked with the Obama administration on that second term. So also experience, knows where the bodies are buried. Tony Thurmond, a progressive black man, has held statewide office, holds it now. He is superintendent of public instruction. The problem with those two is that they are not polling high enough to be within striking distance at this time. And at this time, look, wait until June 2nd if you want to. That's the last day to vote. But vote for someone, especially for governor, but also mayor. Vote for someone who can win. We have to be strategic right now. I'm not scared. Can you tell? I sit up here talking smack about this administration all day long, knowing what they like to do to people who do that. I ain't scared. I'm not voting my fear. I'm voting my strategy. And I encourage you to do the same. We are going to have the opportunity to talk to the challenger in the race for city controller. Zach Sokoloff joins us in studio next on KBLA Talk 1580.
You can't fix what you won't face.
And we face it every day.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Firefighters in California are gaining ground on a wildfire burning more than 2,000 acres in Ventura County. This woman's home has been destroyed.
We've had so much outpouring of love from the neighbors. Everybody's been wonderful.
Crews say dry conditions and strong winds fueled the blaze. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump says charges against a former Hartford, Connecticut police officer are only a first step. Crump, standing with the family of Black 55-year-old Stephen Jones, who was shot during a mental health crisis, called the manslaughter charge insufficient, saying 23-year-old Joseph Magnano should face murder charges. And officials are preparing for the opening of the Obama Presidential Center on Chicago's South Side. A global live stream ceremony and a public watch party are planned, with the center officially opening June 19th. The Obama Foundation is a nonprofit collaborator of the Black Information Network. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new Chili Crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Several HBCU football teams will get a significant financial boost from playing games in 2026 against teams in the Power Four conferences. HBCU teams will earn a combined $6.9 million from 15 games against teams from the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and the Big 12. Florida A&M will get the largest single-game payout this season from gate revenues when they play at Miami on September 10th. Miami, a member of the ACC, agreed to give Florida A&M $740,000 when the teams meet up at Hard Rock Stadium. The athletic budget at Howard University will also get a nice cash deposit. Indiana, the defending national champions, agreed to pay Howard $525,000 when they host HU on September 12th in Bloomington. Howard will get $475,000 from their game at Rutgers, a member of the Big Ten, on September 26th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's celebrate.
Y'all did it.
Loving each other.
Hey, Los Angeles, KBLA Talk 1580 is turning 5, and we're celebrating in a big way.
Oh my God!
Join us Friday, June 19th, Juneteenth, 4 to 7 p.m. at the Beehive for our 5th anniversary bash and Juneteenth celebration. We're talking surprise celebrity guests, a special presentation, and a major announcement you will not want to miss.
I can't wait to hear it.
Plus, live music, dancing, games, and enough food and drink to keep the party going.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Of course, you're welcome to bring your own picnic basket, blanket, and lawn chair. And the best part, it's completely free. But here's the thing. You've got to sign up in advance. Space is limited, so don't wait. Head to KBLA1580.com right now and lock in your spot. Friday, June 19th, The Beehive, KBLA Talk 1580. 5 years strong, and we're just getting started.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Yeah, man!
You can't fix what you won't face.
And we face it every day.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Let me tell you something about Los Angeles. This city doesn't have small problems, so it damn sure doesn't need small, weak leadership. That's why I support Karen Bass. She walked into a system that was slow, broken, and reluctant to change. She cut through red tape and started moving people off the streets into housing. She created the Office of Community Safety to make our neighborhood safer, supported wage increases for many underpaid workers, expanded contract opportunities for small minority business, and signed an executive order to give formerly incarcerated people a second chance. Karen Bass is about real change. I'm Samuel L. Jackson, and I've seen a lot of people talk tough. Karen Bass is tough. That's why I'm voting for Karen Bass, and you should too. So vote today. You received your ballot in the mail by now. You don't even have to go to the polls. Just fill out your ballot and hand it to your postal worker. No stamp needed.
Paid for by re-elect Karen Bass for Mayor 2026, 445 South Figueroa Street, Suite 2400, Los Angeles, California, 90071. Funding details at ethics.lacity.gov.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back indeed. It is election season, and I have to do this right. We have so many rules in radio. I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to elections, we got a lot of rules. You have to give each candidate exactly equal time, and you have to be fair. And I think, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that when you are a small business like ours, a small Black-owned business, it means being extra careful because we tend to get more scrutiny. So I'm just trying to make sure that I do it exactly right. And in the spirit of that, I want to encourage you to go find our podcast. All of the candidates for many offices, and in some cases, just the ones that came in or called in, are featured, but you can find a lot of interviews on our YouTube. Tavis Smiley is there. He will have most of the gubernatorial races by the time we hit Election Day. Candidate Javier Becerra will be with him today. He's only doing the statewide. I am doing all of the offices, the other offices. We've had almost every judicial candidate either in here or on the phone. You can find their interviews on YouTube. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts. We have had we have had every city attorney candidate in here. And we have had many of the other offices as well. And so I would encourage you to do that. Listen to them. We talked about the judicial offices earlier today with Attorney Blacknell, and that is up already on YouTube. And on Tuesday, we'll be talking with Attorney Carrie Harper in the 7 o'clock hour. In case you didn't figure it out, I thought Attorney Blacknell really gave us some good insights. She's dealt with a lot of these folks in court and in the district attorney's office and as a public defender. So lots of different angles for you to figure this out. As you know, we are no longer endorsing on this station. Our air hosts, our on-air hosts, are no longer endorsing on this station in the spirit of opening the playing field. Although, I'm sure you have heard me giving some opinions, and I will continue to do so. We will not directly endorse candidates, and that is that's intentional. That's coming from station management. So that's good, because that means you get to figure it out. And what I'll tell you is that there are lots of great voter guides out there, and there are lots of material for you to peruse on our social media channels, on our YouTube, and you're going to have to use your gray matter. It's good for you. Keep you sharp. Joining me now, one of the races that's getting a lot of notice this time around, partly because it's generally very little noticed, is the Office of City Controller, City of LA Controller. And many of you guys don't even know what it does. Hopefully now you do. We're being joined in studio with a challenger to the incumbent in this seat. He's got a BA from Yale University, a master's in education policy and administration from LMU, and his JD MBA from Harvard University. He lives in Westwood with his wife and their 2 kids and their 2 rescue dogs. Zach Sokoloff, welcome.
Thank you, Dominique. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. You have a job. You actually, from what I understand, you have several jobs. So why do you want this job?
Look, it's a great question. And I mean, you mentioned in my bio my wife and kids. And I think at the heart of what is motivating me to run is a belief that the city of LA needs change. We're on a track that I think is failing too many Angelenos. And so many of those issues and those challenges, in my view, stem from fiscal mismanagement of our taxpayer dollars, whether it's billions of dollars in homelessness and your neighborhoods still look the same, whether it's affordable housing that has not fulfilled the promise that we were all made, whether it's street infrastructure in communities like South LA with potholes and cracked sidewalks or streetlights that don't work. These are basic city services that, in my view, have been underfunded. The budget has not been properly directed toward not only those services, but the communities who need those resources the most. And so I stepped up. I stepped up to offer a different vision of Los Angeles, a vision of change. I'm a first-time candidate, so I come from outside of government. I am not beholden to anyone, and I think having that independence in this role is critically important.
Now, what would you do as controller to change those budget priorities?
So I think the role of controller, as you mentioned, is littler known than maybe some of the other citywide officials. And so just for the audience and the listeners at home, the controller is the chief auditor of the city of LA. It's the fiscal watchdog. And so it's meant to identify how your taxes are being spent, determine whether the policy outcomes are being produced, and where those have failed, to propose solutions and to work collaboratively with other city stakeholders to deliver results for Angelenos. And this last part, I think, is especially critical because the controller's office is neither executive nor legislative. It can't issue executive orders. It doesn't take votes on city council. The only way that it can effectuate change is through partnering with other people to solve problems. And in my view, Angelenos are tired of rhetoric. They're tired of reports. They want to see results. And so I I will bring a balanced approach to this office, one that not only holds firm to the accountability and independence of the role, but also extends a hand of partnership and collaboration to work together to solve not only our basic problems, but our biggest challenges as well.
So what does that look like, in real time on the ground? Like, give me an example of how the chief auditor partners with a city department to effectuate change.
Yeah, it's a great question, Dominique. I'll give you a very specific example, a very timely example. We're in budget season right now. And the way that the budget process works here in LA is the mayor and principally the CAO's office within the mayor's team proposes a budget. It then goes before City Council. City Council revises it and votes on it to approve the budget for the next fiscal year. What I would do differently is get involved proactively on the front end of that process, work collaboratively with the mayor and their CAO to actually shape how dollars are spent, not just criticize how dollars are spent. And
but the controller doesn't have the authority to write the budget, though.
It doesn't have the authority to write the budget, but it does have the authority to be involved in that process. And I think if you're a controller who has abdicated that effort, then you are failing the people of Los Angeles. I think leadership looks different in many different positions, in my opinion, and I think that we need to try something that is different and breaks from the past. I think the way that we've done things has clearly not worked for Angelenos. Again, I would just ask you to look down your block and ask if you're happier today with the conditions of Los Angeles than you were 4 years ago when this controller took office. Do you feel like your taxes are being better spent today than they were 4 years ago? And if the answer is no, then I think we owe it to the people of LA to try something different. And so there's no vested authority to write the budget in the controller's office, but there certainly is a vested authority to be involved, to be proactive, and try to work with others to shape how that budget ultimately gets put together.
So to be clear, the mayor submits the budget, the city council has to approve the budget, and they all do their little political horse trading to come up with, which priorities survive to the final budget. So you're talking about just influencing, right? Because the controller doesn't have an official role as far as designating which dollars go where. What they can do, I think, is expose where the dollars are being spent and try to influence the outcome.
That's exactly right. I think that the bully pulpit, the power of shining a light on how your dollars are being spent. But again, I think that has less effectiveness if it's done after the fact. Transparency, in my belief, Dominique, is the floor of the job, not the ceiling. If you're only bringing transparency to the role, which is I think where the current controller has started and stopped, in my view, you're doing the easy part of the job. The hard part of the job is actually taking that transparency and turning it into impact in people's lives. And so,
how do you audit something before it happens, though?
Well, I think you would audit things retrospectively. But again, I think the current controller focuses a lot more on what he can't do as opposed to focusing on what he can do. I think the office is a lot more expansive than he gives it credit. And so the auditing function is one component of the job, but it's only one component of the job. There are other elements of the job that I think enable you or empower the controller to be much more proactive, to be much more involved on the front end, shaping policy with decision makers, providing better information to actually alter the course of decision making as opposed to simply criticizing it.
Okay, so you're talking about educating the mayor and the city council around what the impact or options they might have are. When you say expansive, I'm trying to get my mind around what that looks like in terms of actual on the ground actions that you're talking about. That the current controller says he focuses on what he can't do. Give me an example of what he could do or you could do that is not being currently done. Yeah.
So one example is we've proposed the idea of creating a position within the controller's office called the Chief Revenue Officer. Right now, we have a $1 billion budget deficit, Dominique, and I think it would be both impossible and imprudent to try to close that budget deficit through cost cutting alone. We have too many vulnerable communities who rely on services from the city to close that budget deficit by cutting costs. We need to find new and creative ways of generating revenue for the city of LA. And so I would propose hiring someone into my office called the Chief Revenue Officer who would work across city departments, across city stakeholders to find new and creative ways of driving revenue into our city, supporting anchor industries like the entertainment industry that has been, by and large, abandoned by the city and the state leaders, looking for ways to make it easier and faster and cheaper to start a business here in Los Angeles, to propose potentially financial literacy task force to empower individuals to be more financially responsible with their own money and build wealth here in Los Angeles. And so I think that there are lots of ways that you can approach this job from a creative and new perspective that would deliver results. Because again, I believe that if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that is the definition of insanity. And so we are coming into City Hall with the idea of change, with the idea of doing things differently, and with an independence that will hopefully allow us to not only remain a staunch advocate for the people of LA, but also to work across city stakeholders to deliver results for all Angelenos.
So you're talking about doing fundraising out of the city controller's office?
Not fundraising per se, but I was proposing economic policies or evaluating proposals that relate to the revenue of the city, and to actually provide independent, unbiased analysis about whether those proposals will have the intended effect. And I'll give you another example that I think is a contrast point between the incumbent and myself. Measure ULA, which was passed here in Los Angeles.
The mansion tax.
The mansion tax, that's exactly right. It's been on the books. It's raised about, I think, over $1 billion at this point. Angelenos have no idea how that money is being spent. And they don't know if it's producing the intended effects of the law. I mean, it was passed overwhelmingly by Angelenos. There was clearly a ton of support.
Is that something you support?
I definitely would like to look at it. That's for sure. The current controller has not examined ULA at all. And I feel like the goal of that law was to promote affordable housing across the city of LA. And I don't think we see much of it. And so I think we have to understand, is it working? Where are those dollars being directed, and how can we do a better job of putting that money to work to deliver affordable housing for Angelenos?
I mean, we could do a whole show on that. I know that the billionaires have been fleeing that. But I want to ask you about, you say you're an outsider, and certainly the current controller is an outsider. I mean, typically
I would push back on that, Dominique.
Okay, well, and you're welcome to do so. But what I'm saying is, typically over the years that I've seen the controller, they've always been a former council member. They've been a lawmaker who was termed out. They've been someone that's inside the close political circles. And you're endorsed by many of those people, like Laura Chick, Mike Gibson, Nick Melf. I mean, you've got a lot of endorsements here. A lot of the political class, Adam Schiff, Rob Bonta, they're stepping up, they're endorsing you. So it kind of seems like, even though you've never run for elected office, it's actually more of a return to what we've traditionally done, which is have someone who has political support rather than a certified public accountant in that seat.
Look, I would say I don't think it takes a CPA, Dominique, to know that $1 billion budget deficit is really bad, and the office is full of very capable, qualified accountants. I don't think we need an accountant per se. I think we need a leader. And what I think the support that I've been very grateful to earn represents is that people want change. They see the current office holder and the job that he's done. Look, he came in promising accountability, and everything has gotten worse, Dominique. Everything has gotten worse on his watch. And I think it's giving him a free pass to say that he's an outsider. He's part of the city. He's the third most powerful elected official in the city of Los Angeles. He has a record. The failures of the city that we all see in our neighborhoods are on his watch. And so I don't think it's fair to call him an outsider anymore.
But you don't put that on the city council, you don't put that on the mayor, you don't put that on the police department. You it's all on the controller.
No, I don't. I look, there's a lot of responsibility to bear, and it's certainly not on one person. But I don't think that one individual can shirk that responsibility. If they've been in office for 3.5 years, he's got a record to defend at this point.
Understood. Of course, the other critique you faced is that you've got a lot of money, deep pockets, and a lot of that money is coming from your own mom. We've never seen this much money in the controller's race before. How do we process that as voters, from your perspective?
Look, I would say I'm very grateful to have the support of my parents. Family means the world to me, and so to have my parents supporting what I am trying to bring to the city of LA is obviously incredibly meaningful. And I think it's also just an indication that there needs to be change, that the current path that we're on is unsustainable. And look, I would say, it's maybe predictable but unfortunate that when an incumbent can't defend their own record, they resort to more personal attacks like this. I would say, in my view, this enhances my independence, not diminishes it in any ways. My folks want to see the city succeed. They want to see me succeed. And they know how passionately I feel about serving my community. I mean, I started my career, you mentioned my educational background. I started my career as a public school teacher here in South LA and East LA. Dominic, I taught.
Which is wild after graduating from Harvard Westlake, which is probably considered the top, private high school in the city.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a part of how we were raised, my siblings and me, that to whom much is given, much is expected. And it's important for me to walk that walk, to give back to my community. I now have 2 young kids. I want to set an example, not through words, but through deeds. And so I was fortunate to have so many teachers in my life who shaped my trajectory. The power of education was so uplifting for me. And so I decided to become a public school teacher. I taught middle and high school Algebra 1 in Boyle Heights and in Watts. And I saw firsthand, you mentioned Harvard Westlake, where I grew up, where I went to high school. We're not more than 12 or 15 miles from Harvard Westlake, Dominique. And when I was teaching at Jordan High School, you might have as well been a world away. The experience that my students had was so radically different from the experience that I had as a student, and that's just fundamentally unfair. And so that has motivated me to a life of service, that has motivated me to find different ways of giving back to my community. And one of those ways is through running for office here in LA to improve taxpayers, to prove the outcomes that taxpayers are getting for their money.
Time flies when you're on the radio. We have 60 seconds. ZachForController.com. Zach with a CH. ZachForController.com is his website. Give me your 60 seconds why we should vote Zach Sokoloff for controller.
Look, I would say, as I've mentioned, I think that the city is heading down a precarious path. We are spending tax dollars inefficiently, and I think that Angelenos deserve better. I'm proud to be the only Democrat in this race, endorsed by several members of the party, but I think what's even more important than simply a party affiliation is the fact that what we're doing today is not working. And so I come to KBLA. I'm spending a ton of time in South LA and East LA on this campaign. It's an incredibly under-resourced but important part of the city. I want to be your champion. I visited, First AME Church and spent a lot of time with real leaders and community members here in South LA. And it's a part of the city that deserves representation. It's a part of the city that deserves a champion. And so I'm just very grateful to you, Dominique, for having me on the show. ZachForController.com. You mentioned that. Follow us on social media, Zach for LA Controller on Instagram and all the rest. And I'd be very grateful for everyone's vote who's listening on the road and at home.
Zach Sokoloff, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Dominique.
We've got more straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic, and when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for State Superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee. Not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
Let me tell you something about Los Angeles. This city doesn't have small problems, so it damn sure doesn't need small, weak leadership. That's why I support Karen Bass. She walked into a system that was slow, broken, and reluctant to change. She cut through red tape and started moving people off the streets into housing. She created the Office of Community Safety to make our neighborhoods safer, supported wage increases for many underpaid workers, expanded contract opportunities for small minority business, and signed an executive order to give formerly incarcerated people a second chance. Karen Bass is about real change. I'm Samuel L. Jackson, and I've seen a lot of people talk tough. Karen Bass is tough. That's why I'm voting for Karen Bass, and you should too. So vote today. You received your ballot in the mail by now. You don't even have to go to the polls. Just fill out your ballot and hand it to your postal worker. No stamp needed.
Paid for by re-elect Karen Bass for Mayor 2026, 445 South Figueroa Street, Suite 2400, Los Angeles, California 90071. Funding details at ethics.lacity.gov.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this?
We didn't think so.
You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
You are, and you are so welcome to call in 800-920-1580 anytime you want to and talk to me, okay? So, as per usual, there is a robust conversation going on youtube.com, KBLA 1580, and you can tap in there with Molly Bell, the chairwoman of the chat room, and all of our KBLA delegates there. That conversation with Zach Sokoloff, he's one of two candidates running for LA City Controller. The other one is Kenneth Mejia. You can listen to them both, compare and contrast, and make up your own mind. News, traffic, and sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Firefighters in California are gaining ground on a wildfire burning more than 2,000 acres in Ventura County. This woman's home has been destroyed.
We've had so much outpouring of love from the neighbors. Everybody's been wonderful.
Crews say dry conditions and strong winds fueled the blaze. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump says charges against a former Hartford, Connecticut police officer are only a first step. Crump, standing with the family of